master maid. There was once a king and a queen, and they had a bonny boy whom they loved beyond anything. Now when he was grown up into a fine young prince, the king, his father, went hunting one day and lost his way in the forest. And when he came through it, he found a raging stream between them and his palace. He did not know how to get home, when suddenly a huge giant came out of the forest and said, "What would you give if I carried you across?" "Anything, anything," said the king. "Will you give me the first thing that meets you as you come to the palace gate?" The king thought for a while and then remembered that whenever he came to the gate of the palace, his favorite deerhound Beavis always came to greet him. So, though he was sorry to lose him, he thought it was worthwhile, and agreed with the giant. Thereupon the giant took the king upon his shoulders, and wading across the raging stream landed him on the farther bank, and saying to him, "Remember what you have promised," went back again to the other side. The king soon found his way towards the palace, but as he came to the palace gate, it happened that his son Prince Edgar was standing there, and before Beavis the hound could dash out to greet his master, Prince Edgar had rushed towards his father and caught him by the hand. The king was rather startled, but thought to himself, "Oh, how will the giant know who met me? After all, I intended to give him Beavis, and that's what I'll do when he comes." The next day the giant came to the castle gates and asked to see the king, and when he was admitted to his presence, he said, "I come for your promise. Bring Beavis the hound," said the king to his attendants. But the giant said, "I want no hound, give me your prince." The king was alarmed at finding that the giant knew who had met him, but they told him that the prince was away, but he would send and summon him. Then he called his high steward and told him to dress up the herd boy of the palace in some of the prince's clothes, and when this was done, he gave him to the giant, who hoisted him on his shoulder and strode off with him. When they had gone a little way along, the herd boy in the prince's suit called out, "Stop, stop, I am hungry. This is the time the herd rests and I have my luncheon." Then the giant knew that he had been deceived and went back to the king's palace and said to him, "Take your herd boy and give me the prince." The king was again startled to find that the giant had found out his trick, but thought to himself, "Well, he didn't find out at once. We'll have another try," and ordered his steward to dress up the shepherd boy in the prince's clothes and give him to the giant. Again the giant strode off with the shepherd boy in prince's clothes upon his shoulder, and they had not gone far when the boy called out, "Stop, stop, it is time for lunch. This is when the sheep all rest." Then again the giant knew that he had been tricked and rushed back in a rage to the king's palace and threw the shepherd boy to the ground and called out, "Take your shepherd boy and give me the prince you promised, or it will be worse for you." This time the king dared not refuse and called Prince Edgar to him and gave him to the giant, who seized him as before and put him on his shoulder. After they had gone a little way, the prince called out, "'Tis time to stop. This is the time I have always lunched with my father the king and my mother the queen." Then the giant knew that he had got the right prince and took him home to his castle. When he got him there, he gave him his supper and told him that he would have to work for him and that his first work would be next day to clean out the stable. "That's not much," thought the prince, and went to bed quite happy and comfortable. Next day the giant took Edgar into the giant's stable, which was full of straw and dirt and all huddled up, and pointing to a pitchfork said, "Clear all of this straw out of this stable by tonight," and left him to his task. The prince thought this was an easy thing to do, and before starting went to get a drink at the well, and there he saw a most beautiful maiden sitting by the well and knitting.